So my guest today is Alina Alam, founder and CEO of Mitti Cafe. Alina's passion for showcasing the magic of abilities led her to establish Mitti Cafe at the age of 23. Now with 46 cafes and over 600 employees with physical, intellectual and psychiatric disabilities, Mitti Cafe has become a symbol of inclusivity. Alina's remarkable journey has garnered global recognition, including features in Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia, a TEDx talk, and prestigious awards such as the Niti Aayog-Women Transforming India Award and the United Nations Intercultural Innovation Award. Without further ado, let's hear from Alina firsthand about the inspiring anecdotes of her team, the impact she has created, and her remarkable journey with Mitti Cafe. Hi, Alina. Very warm welcome to Atlanta Diaries. I'm so excited for this conversation for so many reasons. I think to start with, my close association with Jevaki puts a lot of things in perspective. So really excited for this conversation.
Enma, likewise, it's such a pleasure to be here speaking to you and additionally to know about all the amazing things that you've done and are doing to inspire a whole lot of women out there with the potential to contribute. And just lovely to be here today talking to you.
Thank you. So, love for you to share your early experiences and the influence of your grandmother who contributed to shaping the person you are today.
So, I was, this 2-year-old, and my mother gave birth to my little brother, and she felt really ill at that point of time. And that's when my grandmother stepped in and she said that I'm going to take care of this child. She's no more, but, I can say that she's someone I have loved with all my heart. She had a disability, Edma, but all that I could see in her while growing up was so many abilities. She brought me up, of course. She took care of herself. She took care of 6 other children, including my mother. And, all that I can remember of her was that she's just amazing. And I looked at the world. I was very confused as to how a person's disability could define their entire life. Would result in opportunities or a lack of it, would determine whether that person is able or, disabled to do anything in life. That was very off from what I had always believed in, something that I felt was normal, which is something that, bothered me all my life, and actually that was the foundation point, being able to really do what I did years down the line.
You were upset or disturbed that people define a person because of their abilities or their disabilities, right? So was the North Star very clear from get-go?
So actually, yes and no, both. This was my final semester, and I was waiting for placements that, finally I'll get onto a job and I'll send some money home with all, the support that I've got from my family till today with the limited means that they had. I felt that, I owed them a lot, and I wanted to retire my sister who was working to just ensure that my brother and we go to school. But God had other plans. So while everybody was going for placements, one of those few last classes, I got to watch this one documentary that changed my life. So in this documentary, I get introduced to a character called Nero. So Nero and my emperor in the ancient Roman Empire. He was mighty, rich. And one day he wins the biggest battle of his life. And so he decided to throw a party and he invited kings and queens, princes and princesses from across 7 kingdoms. And as evening fell, Nero said, "Boss, we need some lights to make the party happening." So he decided to burn waste to generate light. So he decided to burn the prisoners of war and the poor people who were captured, who he considered not more than waste.
My God.
I was 22 then, sitting in that classroom while my friends walked out. I was there for the next 3 hours contemplating as to what did I just see, what just happened, which is when I realized that the problem is not Nero. You could equate Nero with atrocities, injustice, discrimination. That will always exist. But the problem is I could see Enma was Nero's guests as to how thousands of them could sing, dance, drink when fellow human beings burnt and died. And at that point of time, the 22-year-old realized that she was one of Nero's guests. That is, if you feel something about anything, and if you're not willing to take action, and I mean, we're seeing so much happening around the world, even today, that a lot of people could relate to. And if you're not willing to take action, not willing to talk about it, then you've taken a side, whether you want it or not. And that side is that of the oppressor. And having been brought up by my grandmother who had a disability, and all that I could see in her was abilities, I decided I cannot sit for college placements and instead need to find my true calling, and started volunteering with organizations that work in the inclusion space. While working with these organizations, the perceptions that I had, it got reinforced that the problem is not the statistics that there are, over 70 million people with disabilities in India and over 1 billion people with disabilities across the world. That statistics is not the problem, that there are people with disabilities. But the problem was a larger statistics, which is the disability in the perception of the community that stops us from seeing the magic in their abilities. And I wanted to challenge and change just that. So, which again led to me doing, what I ultimately ended up doing.
I totally relate to what you're saying. So much so that, even today, some of our close friends in Jayavakil, when we tell them, come and see the campus, and some of them say that we are actually scared to come, so we need to help those Nero's guests, so to speak, get that awareness and understand the reality. So somewhere deep inside, that North Star was always to bring that social change in the environment, is what I'm understanding.
True. So, after my grandmother passed away, I got an opportunity to be with my parents. And, while growing up, fortunately, I'd say we didn't have a lot of money. And I'd say fortunately because we learned to value the other important things in life. So Eid is a very important festival for us, where as children, we didn't have glittering attires. But despite that, we were happy because we, as children, could see our parents doing things for people who were in a worse of condition than us. And they always involved us in it, and we were really happy. So I think deep down there, we realized that you don't need money to gain happiness. Very early on in life, we were embedded with the kind of values which absolutely said that, Alina, it is your social duty, which is also something that faith teaches. I remember this one instance. So my mother used to give me 5 rupees, when I would go to school, and I could do whatever I wanted with it. So I would buy orange sticks someday. Some other days I would buy puchka. Puchka is like golgappa or pani puri, a very popular dish, in India. So I was in school and the whole day dreaming about spending the 5 rupees. And, I went out and, while going, I looked at this person on the pavement, a very elderly person. He was sleeping and he was in a very bad condition. He didn't have slippers. There were flies all over him. And he was on this gunny bag on the pavement. And I thought, do I sacrifice this 5 rupees? He's not even awake. He will not even know that I gave. Versus, the puchka wala was like right there. That was quite a moment for me. Like, as a child, you always crave for these amazing, things. But I kept that 5 rupees, just beside this uncle. And with a heavy heart, I left. And, I expressed this to my mother. And my mother was very, very happy. She gave me another 10 rupees, I remember. I think because I could visualize my parents being a certain way, shaped a lot of my decisions, even as a child. So I had to give a TED talk and they wanted me to speak about my childhood while just scouting through some pictures where I had this, I think I must have been around 2 or 3 years old in that picture. And I had this small bag and an umbrella. And, when I spoke to my parents about this one picture, they said that, apparently while driving down, in an auto, I could see someone getting wet in the rain. So I went back home and I took my umbrella and a bag, I stuffed in whatever I could get to take it for that person. I think if you do anything for anyone, and this is like an experiment for anyone, who's hearing this, anything nice that you do for anyone, it is like a favor that you're doing to yourself. You naturally feel the best that you can feel. I mean, you just naturally feel good. That's how God has created this world.
So, Alina, I do want to little bit double click more on this. So, you did a course in Azim Premji on social development. Is that correct?
Yeah, master's in development. So Emma, I was not a great student. Like I used to fail in a lot of subjects. I was top from the bottom in a lot of subjects. But I realized that I am very interested in people, understanding people, doing things for people, understanding why people behave in a certain way. And I read about a subject called psychology, which fascinated me. And I did psychology from Sophia College for Women, and that was quite a life-changing experience because I did what I like doing. And I think majority of my learnings have been outside of the classroom. And yeah, but after that, I had to decide what I want to pursue in my master's. I heard about this program called Masters in Development that would give you an experiential training beyond classrooms, is what the curriculum promised. And I love field work. And I went for Masters in Development that gave me experience, a lot of field experience.
Let's shift gears. What inspired you to start a cafe? Like it could have been something else, right? So, why a cafe?
So, as I told you, I started volunteering with organizations that work in the inclusion space, and I realized I wanted to create a model that is tangible, interactive, and the success or the failure of the model would be directly dependent on the community. And I needed a common denominator that could connect people to people. And what better than food? Food is a medium, to connect a mother to a child, a friend to a friend, and civilization. So the medium of food or cafes. So I had two objectives. One is generating livelihoods. That is, our money should enter the accounts of our team members with disabilities year on year, month on month. But more important than that, Enma, to be able to create awareness about inclusion with every meal or beverage that we serve. So I started Mitti with zero startup capital and multiple rejections, which is when a particular incubation center called Deshpande Foundation, Sandbox in Hooghly, they said that, see, money we can't give you, but what we can give you is a tin shed with a disclaimer that it's full of generations of rats.
My God.
And they said, see if you can make that into your first cafe. And since no other organization in Bangalore was giving me a space then, I packed bags just after college and I shifted base to Hooghly, a city that I didn't know. I remember one mentor in the mentorship session asked me, Alina, what is your capex and opex? And I said, what is capex and opex? And I don't think he ever saw me again. But all that I had then was passion. Even today, one advice that I give to entrepreneurs is that literally go by the word startup, start. Money is not the ultimate thing that would, enable you or stop you from doing what you want to do. And scarcity is the best resource for any entrepreneur because if you're passionate, that's the time you're your strongest, you're your most desperate, most leech-like, most shameless. And that is exactly what I was. So when I didn't have money and I went from door to door, house to house, shop to shop, looking at me, nobody would give me money. So I said, don't give me money, but join the movement of inclusion. So right from the spoon to the second-hand oven, the second-hand fridge, the tissue papers, all came from the community, from people I didn't know. So that led to us creating the first cafe, the tin shed, which was full of generations of rats. Since I didn't have money to get it cleaned, I cleaned it along with the support of, some students. I promised them samosa and chai, to other Indian delicacies that I'm sure you also love. And that's the time I could absolutely experience the power of the community to be able to grow exponentially, the compassion and the courage that exists within the community. I remember Enma, I had got the second-hand fridge that conked off. And I called the local electrician and I was bargaining with him, as you try to save the extra bucks, whatever is possible, when you're in your startup journey. So he said, 600 rupees. And I said, no, uncle, 400 rupees, please, please, please. And he repaired the fridge. He could see what was going on. And he said, namaste, as a greeting. And he said, oh, this is my contribution to whatever you're doing. For him, right at this moment, we have a lot of corporate CSR supporting us, with a couple of millions. But, that moment, that 400 rupees, was of such great value. And as well as to that person, the local electrician who could actually give that up for this cause, which was just so heartwarming. The local vegetable vendors at Enma came to know about what we were doing. They got me these baskets that turned into our lampshades. The local printer, Shrikant uncle, translated the vacancy pamphlets for me in Kannada and got it printed. People I had never known in my life. And, he said that it's okay, you pay me when you start earning, pay me double, but not now. So, the kindness that exists within the community, I have seen it time and again. The community has built Mitti to what, we are today.
My God, I don't have words to even describe how inspiring you are, Alina, and your courage and your compassion. So kudos to you. The question which comes to my mind is, I am sure there must have been cynics and they must have thought this woman is crazy. And if yes, how did you navigate your way?
Of course. So, I remember that every incubation center across the country rejected us, even in the application stage. Probably we didn't even know how to write, in the way that they wanted. So there were 3 eminent judges, and I was so excited. And at that point of time, I had just started Mitti, and I presented. And fortunately or unfortunately, I could see my scores at the end. So there was cash flow, there was sustainability, there was a lot of other parameters, and last parameter was passion. So while in the other parameters, obviously, because I had just started, the scores were not that great. But on passion, the 3 judges synonymously gave me a similar score. It was 1 out of 5. And yeah, for me, that was quite a jolt. I absolutely broke down and I said that I don't have money. I experience also known, not that much. But passion, that was the only bit of pride that I had. And that was the time I had to decide whether I should go to Hubli or not. And those lessons are, my holy grail even today, that your heart is often more intelligent than your head. At times it needs to be. And you will know when to listen to it. And often the battles outside are the easier ones, like networks you will get, money you will get, connections you will get, problems you'll be able to solve, people you will get. But the more difficult challenges are the ones within. So, you need to know when to listen to your heart, which is your bestest friend. It'll do the best for you always. We call it intuition. But yeah, I have always since then led from my heart, till today. And it has never failed me. Also, in Hindi, we call it Gende ka chamda. But so it's called rhino skin. It's just very important to have that in your journey. Third is that, while I faced a lot of rejections, while these 3 judges could not see passion, but I took it up in my stride that, probably I have to up my game. And hence my love for storytelling started from there, where I realized that what a huge responsibility I have to really bring these people alive. And, the pitch, took a different dimension altogether. So I truly believe that if you are the CEO of the company, you are also the CPO, which is Chief Pitching Officer. You cannot escape sales, and you'll have to be very, very good at being able to express and bring these stories alive. It is a responsibility that you cannot escape from. And also, I think it is 99% implementation, 1% the idea. I've always believed in doing, rather than thinking. And of course, you can make corrections on the way. And I think all of these lessons have worked out for me even 9 years down the line.
So when you saw 1 out of 5, but you decided to take the road to Hubli, right? Who was that cheerleader?
At that point of time, it was very, very close friends. And of course, my parents, my siblings have been the biggest cheerleaders. And I think to maintain a balance, you just have to also have people who are there for you irrespective of your achievements or failures. They'll accept you without judgments. It is very important to also have people or even one person like that.
So who is that one person, Alina?
So I'd say my mother. I remember in the first day of Mitti Cafe, the sales were record sales, record breaking. We didn't make any sales. And I called up my mother and I said that, what if this is a mistake? What if, those scores were correct? What if this is not the right way to do what I'm, wanting to do? And again, from people to people, it would be different. And I'm a very spiritual person. And she said that you tie your camel and then leave the results to people call that superpower God, some call it energy, something out there that has your back. And I think that after every hardship comes ease. So, this is one statement that I repeat, every time we have challenges, even today, that it will pass. So fast forward from no sales, despite everything, to, being at, say, a Supreme Court, at a Rashtrapati Bhavan, at various airports, at 46 cafes, 5,000 people we've been able to reach out through our experiential training program. It's been because of hope, because of faith. And, of course, every time I reach my saturation point, I reach out to Manwara Begum, my mother, and she's able to diffuse it with her anecdotes on faith. And faith has always worked for me.
Beautiful. Was it already decided it's going to be called Mitti Cafe, or did it evolve? Tell us a little bit about the tin shed and its conversion to the cafe.
So Mitti is my first child, I always say. Orhan is my second child. Even when I was figuring out a name for Orhan, it had to have, a meaning that could define his personality. I also wanted something simple, that could connect with everyone. And Mitti means mud. And, despite us being so different in terms of our religion, ideologies, race, geography, gender, but we're all coming from mud, and to mud we'll eventually return. Hence Mitti. And I went from, shop to shop distributing these vacancy pamphlets as well, that if you have a disability, age no bar, as long as you're above 18, the upper limit has no bar, education no bar, experience no bar. As long as you want to learn, we are here for you. And for 2 days, I didn't get any response. And then one call came in and there was this girl's mother. I still remember that voice, half trembling, half trying to communicate. And she somehow managed to say that she has a daughter who has a disability. And she said, but I don't think you will take her. So I said, please get her in. I would love to meet her. And, that was quite a life-changing moment for me and altering moment for Mitti to what it is today. So they came in an auto. And this girl came in crawling because, her family at that point of time, nobody was earning. She could not afford a wheelchair. And I remember I had offered everyone coffee and she couldn't hold even a cup of coffee. Her hand was shaken, it would fall. And in the interview, she said nothing. And I remember me telling her that, why don't you say anything? And she just said that, aap humko lete kya? I said, tum kaam karti kya? So she said, are you going to take me? I said, are you going to work? Are you ready to learn? And, she didn't say even a yes. She just smiled. And, that was an interview. And she was my first trainee, eventually our first employee. And fast forward, today, the girl who came in crawling for the interview, who couldn't hold a cup of coffee, sits on her wheelchair, and she manages 10 other people with disabilities. She's the manager for our first cafe, and her name is Kirti. She's also a class 5 dropout. And as I talk to you, we have hundreds of Kirtis across the multiple Mitti cafes that we have today. Till date, our team members with disabilities across the 40 plus Mitti cafes that we have served over 11 million meals and beverages. So 11 million times they've been able to create awareness about inclusion.
Amazing, Alina. How many days did it take you to convert that tin shed or that rat house to a cafe?
Deshpande Foundation, while he gave me the space, they also had a condition that I started within 10 days. And
wow.
Which also included me shifting base to Hubli. And I didn't have any experience in starting a cafe. I didn't have candidates then. I didn't know where is the market. I'd just been there once for some pitching round that they had. In that also, I didn't get selected. I don't know what, what got them to call me up later, but, it was some competition that was happening. That there also I was rejected. So, but I think there is a will, there is a way. I decided that I will not look at problems, I will look at solutions. Like even recently, so Adani Group owns a lot of airports, and they've been really nice to us to help us with, with spaces in a couple of their airports, including Mumbai International Airport. At that point of time, Jeet mentioned that Alina, we're starting the Lucknow terminal and the Prime Minister is coming in. You have to start it within the next 15 days. And I said, okay.
So, given that I have so much of attachment with Jai Vakil, share with us a couple of impact stories about team members who had intellectual disabilities.
Yeah. So, generally when we talk about people with intellectual disabilities, the stereotypes that exist within the community, the taboo that exists within the community, because of which a lot of parents don't even want a diagnosis of child's disability, is because people generally say that if you have an intellectual disability, pagal hai, you are mad. And our experience has been totally different. Persons with intellectual disabilities, they may be slow, but then they are perfectionists at whatever they do. And best part, I think the biggest strength that they have is that they think from their heart. They do from their heart, they say from their heart, which is something that has worked out so well for us, high in integrity. And, for us, I think one of our verticals, it's called the Karuna Meals program. It gives me immense pride to say that it started because one of our team members, Hemant, he's got cerebral palsy and autism. He comes to us, and this was at the peak of COVID when all our cafes shut down because they were within corporate tech parks, and all corporate tech parks shut down during COVID. When we were looking at survival, Hemant comes to us, this boy with autism, and he says, that there are people who are hungry, and imagine his vision. We generally talk about impact in numbers, right? 100, 1,000, a lakh, a million. He says there are people who are hungry, and if we start cooking, nobody will stay hungry. That was this boy's vision. And, we started with a few hundred meals. And today, as I talk to you, our team members cooked and served over 6 million meals. And all of these have been cooked and served by persons with disabilities, persons with physical, intellectual, and psychiatric disabilities to the economically vulnerable, thereby changing the paradigm that persons with disabilities, given the right kind of support, can not just support themselves and their families, but support the nation and the globe in need. And even today, we are serving in the remotest of areas, including at the Sundarbans. And so I remember Toshit, he has Down syndrome, and he was working at Australia New Zealand Bank. And, he walks into a ladies' washroom once and then twice. And I remember having a meeting with ANZ Bank, which is a very high security area. And of course, they were also very committed to, diversity and inclusion. And we explained the entire case of Toshit's to them. And we looked at his attendance register. We also looked at what time he gets in every day. His work timing is at 7 a.m. He would be there every day, dot, at 6:45 a.m. He loved his work. He made friends. He made these mistakes. But despite this, ANZ Bank decided that, we'd absolutely retain him, which was quite life-altering for Toshit. As today, it's been, as I mentioned, 7-8 years now. Toshit is now a trainer. One day, I remember there was this one customer. I had entered the cafe, and at that point of time, we had limited cafes. You could find me most of my cafes. And, as I love to be on the field. So one customer somehow came to know that I am associated with Mitti Cafe. And he said that, are you a part of Mitti Cafe? I said, yes. And he pointed to this boy, and he said that, this boy, the way he talks to me, I just came and he asked me, samosa, how many? And, I listened to him very patiently, and he said that, how rude is he? He doesn't know how to talk. And then I explained that his name is Bharat. Bharat is in the autism spectrum, and probably what he feels inside, he may not be able to express, his expressions may not do justice to how amazing, how proud that he feels inside. I gave him the backstory of his mother, and how Bharat supports his mother with the rental, how proud she is of Bharat to be here, and how important it is for us to have a community around Bharat, including this gentleman who really supports Bharat. And he didn't say anything to me and he walked off. And a couple of days later, I happened to be in the same tuck shop and I see this person with Bharat. He got in another friend of his. He's giving Bharat a high five and he's introducing Bharat to that person. So perceptions can change, Edma. And people are innately, and I repeat it again and again, are innately nice. People don't understand that not all disabilities are visible. Hidden disabilities, it's important that we create awareness and we change perceptions.
Beautiful. Alina, as I'm listening to, I'm just wondering, are you guys doing sort of anything to solve for these perceptions and these invisible disabilities? I mean, if this man, he could have just walked away angry and conveyed a very different message altogether, right? Versus Alina was there to solve for it.
Like you rightly mentioned, Alina cannot be at all the cafes. And like yesterday, I was there at a panel, at a CII panel, and I was telling them that I feel like I'm one of the most irrelevant people at Mitti. Like Mitti will run even if I disappear from this earth. I go to Mitti to eat. And the reason being that even as part of our training program, we absolutely integrate the sense of purpose that exists within our team members with disabilities. They're not just serving a chai or a coffee or a sandwich. It is awareness that they're creating. So each of our team members who are there are responsible to educate anyone, also manage their emotions. During our training process, we try to make them understand how important it is for them and also ways to really, handle difficult situations, not lose their cool, not feel disheartened, because we are here for a purpose. And you'd hear a lot of our team members with disabilities also saying this, that this is for a larger cause. This is for the next 100 people, the next 1,000 who could really benefit from us being able to really create that awareness. So whether you buy a coffee from us or not, you're at least experiencing this model. Usually in a lot of sectors, we see that you try to keep persons with disabilities in the backdrop. But here, it is a conscious effort to bring them to the forefront, whether it is people with physical, intellectual, psychiatric disabilities, acid attack survivors. Because unless they are in the forefront, unless there are natural interactions, unless there are these uncomfortable moments that we allow people to overcome, change can never happen. So we are conscious about that.
I don't even think if this question makes sense, but I'm still going to ask you, did you ever feel demotivated or hopeless during your journey with Mitti Cafe, especially in the face of naysayers?
Of course, it totally makes sense. Yes, I mean, demotivated, low, defeated many, many times. I mean, till today, there are so many checks that we've missed out on. There are so many pitches that have not worked out for us. There are so many clients where we've reached a stage where, we've signed the contract and it's still not worked out. Like COVID happened and everything shut down for us. There'll be times when, people not all that nice with you, they will try to find reason that doesn't even exist to really pull you down. And I think those are the moments when you need to rely on, of course, faith, but also understand that vulnerability is a great strength that you have at that time. It is important that, you speak up about, what is good, what is not good. And, try to diffuse that by sharing it with, the larger community, the larger ecosystem, and get all of them together to combat this one challenge. When things go south, I know that I can reach out to my mentors. I can say that this is the mess that I have made. And, you can just be honest about it. You don't have to be on the sales mode with everyone. You need to have people you can just be your real terrible self with. And it has always worked out.
I love that. Let's just double click on this. Talk to me about the mentors in your journey. And like you said, it can't be perfect always. So, mistakes in your journey and what were your learnings?
So Enma, till today, if I look at an Excel sheet and a lot of entrepreneurs will raise their eyebrows. I feel that they are ant scrolling. But you always have to have someone who is your counter ego, who's better than you and things that you're not good at. You have to build an organization with people who are much better than you.
Yeah.
And I have been fortunate to find in, amazing directors. Aisha is one, Swati. It was just by luck that, I got to meet Swati. She actually closed down her organization to come in, and she's actually taken Mitti to a different scale altogether. Aisha and her passion, again, she leads from the heart. And, Wilfred is fantastic. An approach that has always worked out for me, Enma, is a bottom-up approach, a participatory approach to running things. A lot of people criticize it by saying that, it'll just slow down things, etc., etc. But that is the only sustainable way to run things. Mm-hmm. And this is something that has worked out for us at Mitti because our stakeholders absolutely own the cause. So, just day before yesterday, I was speaking at the social welfare department, DPWD, and so I had my team members on stage with me, and somebody asked, aren't you thinking of owning a Mitti Cafe? Which was such an amazing question. And there were 3 of our team members on the stage, and they had different disabilities. They said, we are already the owners of the cafe. And, with so much of confidence, I felt very proud. And, also, Enma, Mitti, while we look at the larger picture, I think we are our stories. Like Bhairappa, he's got dwarfism, motor disability, mild intellectual disability. Now, he's about 3 feet in height. And when he came in, he was rejected at 80 plus jobs, which is post that we got lucky and we found him. And when he came in, he did not know the concept of wearing slippers or even brushing his teeth. Today, Bhairappa is the team lead in one of our cafes in the Bangalore International Airport. There were so many taboos and stereotypes which even exist today around people with disabilities. Bhairappa was told that it was because of him that his mother passed away. He was told that he was considered a child of ill omen. Villagers would run away from him. And, people would make fun of him because of his disability. Of course, he's overcome all of that. But when people with disabilities come in for the world to see their abilities, it comes at a later stage. That is the easier part. But for us, the larger challenge after years of bullying, rejection, being told they're not good enough, is to show them the mirror to their abilities. And, Bhairappa, of course, he became the team lead at our cafe, from coming in barefoot to becoming the team lead. And he was also told something even more painful, that because of his disability, he will never find anybody to love him. And fast forward, he found Rupa, who was working at Mitti Cafe Wipro, and Bhairappa was at Mitti Cafe Infosys. So recently when I met up, as I mentioned to you last time with Mr. Premji, I joked with him that this was an Infosys Wipro love story. And we have 27 plus and counting love stories at Mitti Cafe that have translated to marriages. So I think these stories really make us what we are. Lakshmi, single mother of 2 children, only earning member of a family, Enma. She looked at this newspaper article one day and she saw that something called World Tour written in it. And she asked someone, what is this World Tour? Where all can we go in this World Tour? She asked. And, after understanding that, now she has a dream that today her children will study. And she's a single mother of 2 children. She can't hear or speak. And she has a dream that today her children will study. Tomorrow, one day, they will take her on a world tour. On the other side, we have Himanshu. He's got Down syndrome and he's working in one of our cafes. And, every month he saves money with a dream that one day he's going to build his own house. By the way, Bhairappa, not only has he become the team lead, found a wife and the love of his life, he's also built a 3-floored house in his village. Every time he's in the village, everybody, the entire village comes to meet him and his wife.
Awesome, Alina. You are so passionate about your cause and I wish you all the very best. And before I end, what is next for Alina?
So, I'll continue to do where my heart lies. At the moment, it is, of course, Mitti. It is also with my family. So, of course, passionate about taking the movement of inclusion to the world. We do this again through Mitti cafes. Today we are at a Supreme Court, at airports, at parliaments. Tomorrow probably we'll be at every parliament across the world. taking the word of inclusion to everybody so that more people join this movement, because economic independence and dignity should be a reality for the billionth person across the world for whom it is not till now. And it is not a privilege, but it is a right. And it should be a right, not just in paper and in practice, and just very passionate to take it to the world.
More power to you, Alina, and I look forward to meeting you in person and bringing you to Jevakil very, very soon.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, do hang on for just one more minute. I have a request for you. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Atlanta Diaries on Spotify, iTunes, or whichever platform you follow. Do join us in our mission to empower and inspire by sharing the podcast with a friend or colleague. It will be great if you can share on the social media platforms you follow, be it LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or any other. Please leave a review or rating on iTunes or Spotify. It really helps us reach a wider audience. Lastly, I wanted to share with you that many of my coaching clients and listeners have created a cheat sheet with their key takeaways from the episodes. I invite you to consider jotting down 1 or 2 key takeaways as you navigate your amazing journey. Have a wonderful rest of the day and see you next week for another inspiring journey on Atlanta Diaries.